Hello, friends. An interesting article came out in the Polish press. Poland is facing a demographic catastrophe. New laws on foreigners may make it worse. Now we will analyze the text of Piotr Toborek's article through the lens of common sense, hard numbers, and discuss how the Polish state apparatus is trying to fight against its own economy. Please leave a like to support the working class, a like to support aerodynamics. Friends, here's some quick comment bait. Please tell me, do you need Polish citizenship, that burgundy booklet, or are you perfectly fine living with your own passport? Please leave your comments and let's get to business. What's the reason for the panic? This article is quite alarming. Its tone is, by 2060, there will be no one left to work. The Union of Polish Counties, which is the local municipal authorities, studied the latest draft amendments to the law on citizenship and foreigners, and they were quietly horrified. Local officials suddenly discovered the laws of demography and say that the new rules are a great way to drive the country into a dead end. According to the official population forecast for 2060, Poland is facing large-scale depopulation. Societal aging is inevitable, with the share of people 65 and older rising quickly as the number of children and youth falls. And young people aged 0 to 17, everything is going downhill. The working age population is shrinking. But friends, this is a classic picture. The capitalist system has created conditions in which the native population physically cannot reproduce itself, but somehow millions of Polish pensioners need to be provided with a comfortable old age. Who is going to do that? That's right, migrants, but here comes the but. The officials in the ministry have their own view of reality. And we move on to the next points of this same article. Look, be sure to write in the comments. Dennis, what are you talking about? They should take away your citizenship. What's going on? How do you even dare to open your mouth? This is Poland. These are sacred things. No, friends, it's just an article. I'm just reading the article and sharing my opinion. So the four horsemen of the bureaucratic apocalypse. Instead of making integration easier for those who are already working here, the draft law proposes four absolutely absurd new measures. An increase in the residency requirements, meaning the required periods of residence for documents, is being proposed. In some cases, they want to increase them almost threefold. This completely deprives people of any sense of stability and leaves them in limbo. They can't buy an apartment or get a mortgage. 5 years without a penny from the government. The ban on using social assistance for 5 years is worded so vaguely that if a person has an emergency, gets sick or has an accident, and takes benefits even once just to survive, the path to citizenship is closed. Whether it's fair or unfair, of course, we can discuss that. Next, Polish language at the C1 level. C1 level means fluent professional proficiency, which is required for professors, academics, top managers, all those who earn astronomical millions. And this is in a country with an objectively difficult language. But the economy primarily needs workers, construction, factories, logistics. Next, deportation for minor offenses. If adding criminal activity or hooliganism to the list of reasons for deportation is understandable, then the point about deportation for accidentally damaging some roadside bush or for polluting the forest looks like outright mockery. Friends, demanding that a construction worker or a truck driver know the language at the level of a professor from Jagiellonian University is quite a bold move. And there, if you decided to break off a branch at a picnic for a barbecue, right? Pack your bags, head to the station, deportation to the front. Comrades, dear friends, are you sure you're writing laws there and not a collection of bad advice? So look, here's another interesting point. Let's talk. The article notes that in 2023-2025, there was a sudden surge in the number of citizenship applications, which ministry officials consider a dangerous anomaly. Polish citizenship is sacred, of course. How dare you? Look what they've come up with. Poland is for Poles. However, the Union of Counties and real statistics hit the lawmakers in the face with facts. This influx is not a coincidence. This is the natural result of two specific historical waves. Group A. The Ukrainian wave. Those who left in 2014-2016 are not refugees from recent years. These are people who came to Poland 10-12 years ago. They worked with purpose. All these years, they legally paid taxes to the Polish budget. They went through endless residence permits. So, by 2024-2026, they had already, from a legal standpoint, completed the required period. Whoever spent 5 years as a resident, that's it. They're ready to apply for citizenship. These are the most loyal, integrated, and economically active members of society. Only fools don't see this. Next, Group B, the Belarusian wave. That's a thing. After 2021, there was a mass exodus of qualified IT specialists, engineers, and medical workers. After the events in Belarus, you remember which years. Many of them came through relocation programs. They used the Poles card. Well, they found their historical roots. They lived in the country for, 2 or 3 years as required. Yeah, well, and it also makes sense that they reached the final stage of getting their passports. So, what do we have? People have been boosting the Polish GDP for years. They moved their families, they bought homes. But when it was time to issue passports, the government said, we're putting on the brakes. And they say, what are you doing? Where do you think you are? So, we're sounding the alarm. The economy is screaming, give us specialists. But some people at the top are resisting. They're saying, wait a minute. They haven't learned Polish at a C2 level yet. What are you thinking? How will they live here? So, well, the Union of Polish Counties sums it up. Laws must carefully balance the social and economic interests of the state. Trying to artificially slow down the natural integration of taxpayers who have proven themselves over the years is economic madness. That's the article's author, Piotr Toborok. He should probably have his passport taken too. What does he think he's doing? Just thinking about topics like that. So, in the end, we have a classic paradox. Yes, the market demands labor, here and now. Well, that's part of the reason. By the way, the author of the article points this out. Let's not forget about Poland's pension system. It will collapse under its own weight, but officials prefer to engage in petty chauvinism and tighten the screws. Well, maybe the German economy, which is now actively simplifying laws for migrants, will say a huge capitalist thank you from Panama via Warsaw for the outflow of valuable personnel. And by the way, friends, I want to say a few words to you. Actually think about it, because some people might say, oh my God, I live here on a residence permit, everything is great for me. Why do I need this? Why should I chase after this burgundy booklet? Allow me to make a remark, some thoughts and reflections, thoughts that just burst out, if I may put it that way. In the public mind, a passport is a kind of symbol of the highest achievement, recognition, and security. Once I get a passport, that's it, I've made it, I'm protected. But if you take off the rose-colored glasses and apply a cold, materialistic analysis, a passport is just a bilateral legal contract between you and a specific government apparatus. A contract in which you, and me too, instantly acquire a huge ironclad package of obligations, tax, fiscal, and potentially mobilization duties. But the package of rights from the state is a very flexible thing which our dear officials can rewrite at any moment. But let's be honest, the market, the economy, and employers generally couldn't care less about the color of your passport cover. Capital needs brains, skills, and the ability to generate profit. If you're a sought-after specialist, permanent residency, a residence permit, or a blue card already gives you about 90% of what you need. 90, maybe even 99% of all the necessary economic benefits. In the same way, you can legally live, buy property, pay taxes, and use the infrastructure. What does citizenship give you on top of that? Well, the right to go vote for local politicians once every few years. For Karolina Rodzki, of course, always, always. Let's be realistic. For a busy person, that's a questionable bonus. It doesn't increase either your moral satisfaction or your bank balance. Is it worth trembling before immigration services for years and taking a language exam at a professor's level for this? Well, that's a philosophical question. In my opinion, as a standalone goal for living in just one country, the project looks questionable and maybe even economically inefficient, right? But you have to evaluate it. That is, not everything is so clear-cut as they say. You can assess this document not only emotionally, but also as a liquid asset. And its main advantage is not living in Poland. As paradoxical as it may seem, yes, it's the opportunity to legally move to almost any country in Europe at any time. Because here's the key difference between a residence permit and citizenship. The permanent residence card ties you to a specific location, Poland. If tomorrow you get tired of the local climate, taxes, or if they tell you to get out to Ukraine, get out to the front, you can't just up and move. You'll have to go through all those bureaucratic hoops in a new country. For example, in Spain, a Polish passport is a European Union passport. It activates the fundamental European right to freedom of movement and residence. If you have remote income, a business, or solid financial capital, this document becomes a tool of absolute freedom. You don't have to ask permission from the Italian signore, the Spanish don, or the French monsieur. Can I live here or not? No, you just arrive. You rent a place, buy one, and live your life. You look at the sea, drink wine. That's it. You just pack your things, move your family, rent a villa somewhere in Sicily, and register with the local municipality if needed. The procedure is very simple for European Union citizens. It literally takes a couple of days, even considering all their mañanas, siestas, and fiestas. And you can live by the warm sea absolutely legally for as long as you want. Yes, if your goal is to live peacefully, work, and raise children in Poland, then permanent residency status is more than enough. So this is already a philosophical question. Do you really need to go all out to get that passport or not? Well, if we're talking about global mobility, to be able to change your jurisdiction at any moment, move to Italy, and turn your life into an endless vacation by the sea without depending on the whims of immigration services, well, then it really makes sense. Yes. In that scenario, the asset is definitely worth all the effort you put into it. It takes off. Also, of course, you could make the point that we don't know what will happen in 5 years, or what will happen to a structure like the European Union. Maybe everything will fall apart, or maybe it won't. So, friends, that's the article. We've discussed it. I hope you found it interesting. Leave a like, write a comment, let me know which city you watched from. That's important. For those who forgot, let me remind you that the best money transfer service is TransferGo. The link is in the description. Go ahead, send money to your family and loved ones. Support them if you can. That's all for now. See you next time.